Good evening, good morning, good night, whatever the case may be. It's time. It's time for World History with your favorite teacher slash coach once upon a time ago. It's me, Coach Hughes. And we have been diving into talking about the ancient Romans for the last couple of lectures, all the way from the Roman Republic to the fall of the Roman Empire. And we're going to backtrack in today's lecture just a little bit and talk about the birth and the establishment of the religion of Christianity, because it was during the time of particularly the Roman Empire and the time of Augustus and the Pax Romana, the 200-year period of peace, that the Christian religion really develops. And the Christian religion not only has ties to Rome and the Roman Empire, but all the way back to Jerusalem and the time of Judaism, another religion that we've talked in great length about. So we're going to dive into what is Christianity in today's lecture. Now, since we're dealing with religion, and I always say this when I talk about religion, I'm not trying to convert you to any one particular religion. We are merely putting our historical lens on a very important topic that is Christianity, and one of the three big religions that we will discuss: Judaism, Christianity, and we will eventually discuss the religion of Islam. Okay, so let's go back in time just a little bit to the kingdom of Israel and Judah. Now, Jerusalem, as we established many lectures ago, was the capital of the kingdom of Israel. And it was during the 900s BC, Israel was divided really into two kingdoms, Israel and Judah. Now, you may remember the 12 tribes of Israel. They kind of fight like brothers do. Imagine you and your siblings. Do you and your siblings ever fight? I know my brother and I had many fisticuffs over the years of growing up. These tribes were really brothers to each other, and well, they get in a feud and they break up. 10 of the tribes go north and they form the kingdom of Israel, and 2 of the tribes move south and they form the kingdom of Judah. And it was during the Roman Empire, Emperor Augustus, aka former name Octavian, made Judah into a Roman province called Judea around 6 AD. Now, this is kind of throwing salt on an already injury. It stings. If you ever had a scrape or a burn and you're at the beach and you dive into that salt water, whoa, that burns, that stings. And the slight name change. I've had many students over the years go, big deal, Judah, Judea. It sounds basically the same. It is a big deal. Imagine a teacher, or imagine someone that can't quite pronounce your name right, and they keep calling you by the incorrect name. It might not bother you at first, but over time it kind of builds and builds and builds upon itself until you're like, that's not my name. It's not my name. And this was kind of insult to injury to the Jewish people, that their name, their established name, Judah, was ever so slightly tweaked, changed by the Romans to a more Roman name, Judea, in 6 AD. Now, circle D, put a star by it, whatever you need to do. You need to remember this for the upcoming quizzes and tests. The Zealots, or Zealots, however you want to pronounce it, were Jews who were rebels, rebel risers is what I call them. And they wanted to really kick the Romans out. This is our land. This is our homeland. We're going to fight for our freedom. And here's what you've got. The Zealots, the Zealots, they were Jews. They rebelled against the Romans. They wanted to kick the Romans out. They wanted to reclaim Judea as Judah and take back their land. And in 66 AD, they came in, they rebelled to take back their kingdom. The Zealots were eventually defeated, and the Romans, they kind of viewed the Jews as insects, peasants, pest. Imagine, I know here in Alabama in the summer we have something called gnats, little flies that that just that just kind of bug us, and it kind of goes around. They won't leave us long. These gnats, as we call it here, those were the Jews to the Romans. They just kept coming, and the Romans kept swatting them. So one thing that they did after, of course, they've already slightly changed their name, is they go and destroy their icon, the temple that Solomon had built, their most sacred shrine, if you would, their most sacred location. They destroyed it, got rid of it. This made the zealots, whatever name you want to call the rebel rousers there, they made the Jews even more furious. The Jews rebelled again in 132, but the Romans, that's the Roman Empire. They're just too strong. Legions, 6,000 men they can fight in any directions. They're disciplined, well trained. The Jews desperately wanted to defeat them, but the Romans, the military, it's too good. In retaliation, the Romans went to an extreme level here. The Romans forced the Jews out of Jerusalem. Jerusalem Jews, that Jerusalem was named after the Jews. The Romans are kicking them completely out and banning them, Xing them, getting rid of them. You can never, and I mean never, return to this area again. They kicked the Jews out. The Romans did. They kicked the Jews out and forbid them to ever return for their homeland. This is in 132 AD. Now, out of Judaism rose another religion for some in the Jewish faith, Christianity. So circle all on this slide. You need to know all this information. A Messiah is a deliverer, a messenger. The Jews believed that God would send a Messiah to restore their kingdom, to get their land back, to get Israel, Judah, back in their fingertips. Now, one man, very controversial man, Jesus. Now, Jesus was born a Jew. He didn't automatically born, I'm a Christian. Jesus was born into a Jewish family. He was born a Jew, and he was born in the city of Bethlehem. Now, he's often referred to as Jesus of Nazareth. Okay, there's a whole story about the birth of Jesus there. Mary and Joseph, his parents, were traveling to pay a tariff, a tax, if you would, and he was born in Bethlehem. But they are from Nazareth. So Jesus born in Bethlehem, but often referred to throughout any history book and in the Christian Bible there as Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus traveled throughout Judea, still that Roman name there, preaching his ideas. Now, Jesus' message, what was his ideas? What was his message? Was contained in a group of sayings called the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus believed in love and forgiveness, and not just simply following religious law. And this was kind of a radical thought because the Jews believed, they had the Torah, the Talmud. They believed you got to follow this, you got to follow this. There is no forgiveness. You got to follow this. You got to follow the rule of the law here in this religion. Jesus was kind of a radical by saying, love one another, forgive one another, ask for forgiveness. It's not as simple as just following the religious law presented. And one way, very crafty way that Jesus did this was he used something called parables to give his message. And if you don't know what a parable is, parables are stories that use events from everyday life to express spiritual ideas. As a teacher, I kind of use this method here. History to some might seem, well, rather boring. It is, unfortunately, to a degree. But if you can take events from everyday life, today's events, and you can tie it back to things that happened a long ago, you can learn a lot. And this was the kind of teaching that Jesus did. So these parables, again, stories that use events from everyday life to express spiritual ideas. I'm sure that whether you've sit in church before or down at the local get-together place, someone out there is a great storyteller, and you kind of get evolved in their message to a degree that you kind of forget it. And then some of these great storytellers, they go back in and they tie a message to that. I'm going to show you a couple of examples here. This is courtesy of Willowbrook Baptist Church, local church here in northern Alabama. And what we have here is some parables. And these are commercials, and they tell a story, okay? But then they tie a message in at the end of the story. So I'm going to let you sit back and watch some of the better ones here. Courtesy of Willowbrook Baptist Church. This one is Keep Your Fork.
A woman met with her pastor and said, "The cancer is not responding. I need to plan my funeral. When I die, please bury me with a fork in my hand." Let me explain. At the end of big family meals, as my mother was collecting the dishes, sometimes she would say, "Keep your fork." Then I'd get so excited because I knew dessert was coming. Keep your fork meant the best is yet to come. So, Pastor, when I'm in my casket holding a fork and people wonder why, you tell them, for a Christian, the best is yet to come. The moment you enter the pearly gates, you're going to know it. When you walk the streets of gold, when you hear the angels sing, when you hug your loved ones who beat you there, but best of all, when you see Jesus face to face. My name is Mark McClellan, pastor of Willowbrook, reminding you to keep your fork. The best is yet to come.
All right, so that is that's just one example there.
I need to plan my funeral.
Got to learn how to control that. So yeah, that's just one example of many that you guys can get. And looks like my children have taken over my YouTube there. So they got different things going on. Hey, J House Vlogs. I'm sure you're interested in that. There's some more. I'm going to play some more. I just got to find that channel again real quick. Okay. So another one is the Grand Canyon. And if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, you know just how vast and large the Grand Canyon is.
I'm hiking in the Grand Canyon. A moment ago, I heard someone say, "That's a big hole in the ground." Talk about an understatement. Likewise, to say that God is a big God is understating it. Standing here makes you realize just how big God really is. He created the universe out of nothing, flung the stars into space, scooped out the canyon, raised up the mountains, painted the sky blue without a stepladder or a brush. The God who created all of this can recreate your life. The big God that we serve is big enough to restore your broken marriage, to heal your broken body, to rescue your rebellious child, or to fulfill your dying dream. We serve a big God. Instead of telling God how big your problems are, why not tell your problems how big your God is? My name is Mark McClellan, pastor at Willowbrook.
All right, so you can see what a parable is, and I'll play maybe just one more. But again, there's stories that they start out just what they seem like. They're stories, but then at the very end, it kind of relates back to, in this instance, as a Christian, it links back to a message that that Jesus had, or a message in the Bible. Here's a football one.
On New Year's Day, 1929, Georgia Tech was playing the University of California in the Rose Bowl. Roy Riegels recovered a fumble. He began sprinting for the end zone. He ran 65 yards towards the wrong goal line. He had to be tackled by one of his own teammates before he scored for the other team. At halftime in the locker room, the coach said, "Men, the same team that started the first half will start the second half." Roy said, "Coach, I can't do it. I've embarrassed the university. I've embarrassed myself. Don't make me go face that crowd." The coach said, "Roy, get up. Get back on the field. The game is just half over." Maybe you've been going the wrong way. Maybe you've done something you're ashamed of. God knows your sin. He can forgive it. God knows your past. He can forget it. God knows your future. He can change it. My name is Mark McClellan, pastor at Willowbrook, a church of second chances.
Again, these are courtesy of Willowbrook Church here in North Alabama. All right, so that kind of takes you in to what a parable is. And that is the kind of message that Jesus was preaching all over Judea during the time of the Roman Empire. And now, one thing that you got to remember about the Romans is they don't care. You could worship a rock. They did not care about religion unless you started to interfere with the government, or they believed that this religion would interfere in the government. And Christianity, love and forgiveness, expressing freedom and ideas, you might be starting to interfere with the government. Now, Jesus' followers believed he was the Messiah the Jews had been waiting for. They believed he was the deliverer. They believed he to be the Messiah, the Son of God. Now, leaders in Jerusalem, they charged Jesus with treason and they crucified him. And there's a lot of story to it, but I won't kind of go into that. And crucifying someone was kind of the main method of execution there in the Roman Empire. And what they did was they had a cross and they nailed a person to a cross. Now, some people would say that the nail went straight through the palm. Some people would argue that the nail went through the two bones here on the wrist to kind of hold you up. And then they had your feet together and they nailed you right there on that cross. Now, this was torture because you had to hold yourself up to breathe. And the more exhausted you got, the tougher it became to hold yourself up. And eventually, what would happen is that you would suffocate. Now, here's the difference, the real difference between being a Jew today and being a Christian. If you're a Christian, you believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, died on the cross, only to be resurrected. Circle G. Jesus and his followers believed Jesus was resurrected, rose from the dead, and they found this new religion called Christianity. Now, not all Jews believed that Jesus was, in fact, the Messiah, the Son of God, the Savior. And those Jews today are still waiting on the deliverer, the Messiah. They believe Jesus to be a great man, a prophet, but not the Messiah. So that is where you branch off into these two very different religions. Now, the people who accepted Jesus as the Messiah were called the Christians or Christians. Circle B, the apostles were early Christian leaders who helped establish Christian churches and continue to spread these parables, these messages the word of God and Jesus' teachings throughout the empire. Two pretty famous apostles are Peter and Paul. You may have heard of them, may not have heard of them. And Christians have, obviously, as I stated in just a second ago, different beliefs from Jews. Christians believe Jesus is the Son of God who came to save you. And Jews, again, do not believe that Christ was, in fact, the Messiah. Christians believe people can gain salvation or be saved from sin and allowed to enter heaven by accepting Christ into their hearts. Christians believe in the Trinity, or one God who exists as three persons: Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And that is going to kind of conclude lecture 1 on Christianity. We've got about 2 more lectures, so there'll be follow-up lectures on the topic of Christianity to follow. Okay? All right, so go back over this lecture, look at the PowerPoint. If you are a student of mine, go into Canvas or whatever device we're using, and go in there and study the notes and the PowerPoints as well. All right, until we do this thing again, God bless and good luck out there.